That's not. So I'll cut it. I love technology when it chooses not to work anymore. It just, don't you love technology?
Some days yes, other days not so much.
I this is crazy because as soon as I push record, your screen started looking blurry, like
Oh,
like really fuzzy. Um, and I'm not sure what's going on. I can barely see you. It's like you're underwater. When you see a picture underwater,
oh
as soon as I.
wow. Should I
Let's see.
try going out and coming back in?
Yeah, let's see. Mm, okay, can you? Yeah, can you try to log out and log back in and see if that
Oh,
helps? I don't know
okay.
what happened. Yes, there you go. I was like, wait, I don't know what happened. Yes. Oh, and it blurred again. Goodness. Hmm. I don't know what happened. Can you go to the? Do you have like the camera button on the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
Can you click that and see if it does anything different?
Did that help or no? No.
Okay, you look great when you're by yourself. Okay, are you froze?
I don't. Oh, wait. Hold on.
Perfect.
Okay.
You're perfect. Okay. All right. See, I love technology. I was like, we were ready. And that's just how this interview is going to go. Yeah. So I am Dr. LaTracy with Black Authors Rock. Thank you so much for joining us on today for this amazing interview with the Dr. Angela Duncan. She is a phenomenal woman and author who has decided to take the world by storm with the business, the brand, the movement, Move on Purpose. And so, Dr. Angela, please let the people know who you are and what you do.
Yes. So I am so happy to be here today. Again, Dr. Angela Duncan, I'm the manager and coach at Move on Purpose, which is a company that assists high school students and their families as they are navigating the college and career search process. And we do that by helping them to explore, identify, and pursue their purpose through meaningful and effective college and career coaching. I've worked in higher education and secondary education and just love being able to assist students and families as they go through that process, and especially those who don't necessarily have access to those resources through their high schools or within their communities.
I love that. I was one of those students who didn't necessarily know about the resources growing up. And so I read everything. and reading everything got me in a lot of trouble because I would sign up for stuff. Uh, but it got me to where I am today. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's do it. Um, so, can you tell us why you have decided to create this type of movement, this atmosphere, this business?
Yes. So I did it because I can't say that I necessarily fall into the demographic of students and families that I like to help, with the exception of that I'm an unrepresented minority woman. So, but because of the um, opportunities that I had as a high school student and going through higher education several times. I know that not all students have those same opportunities. I also know that school counselors have a wide variety of things that they have to do in addition to helping students and families through the college and career search process. So as opposed to saying, hey, let's just throw some more of this work on our school counselors, I wanted to be able to be an additional resource to help those students and those families get that assistance. Not that I'm trying to take away from what school counselors are doing, because there's still work and things that the school counselors will only have access to that I won't have that access to. But being able to answer those questions that students may not know that they need to ask or may not have the opportunity to ask, and be an additional guide for them and say, hey, these are the things that you need from your counselors. And then these are the pieces that you and your family members can work on separately, just to make sure that they have a plan, hopefully have a plan together prior to high school graduation so they know what their next steps are, as opposed to saying, well, as long as I get to high school graduation, I'll figure the rest of it out. Because sometimes figuring the rest of it out isn't as easy as you would think. So just being that additional guide, so that students know, yes, some of these processes may be difficult, but there's a way to get through them and get to the other side so that they can be successful.
Awesome. And so, your business, what did that have to do with you becoming an author?
Well, a part of it was because the business came out of me taking intentional time to spend with God to say, what is my purpose? Like, what is it that you would have me here to do? And then kind of sitting for a year while also working with a personal and professional coach at the same time, and saying, okay, this is what I feel like God is leading me to do. What do I need to put together as far as the business side goes? And then what do I need to work on personally that's going to help me be successful within the business? So a piece of that and a piece of the story that I share as an author was kind of walking through the process of rejection and what that looks like, and what it's looked like in my life. And kind of how that rejection, how I had to learn to flip it and say, okay, yes, this is rejection. It's somebody telling me no for whatever reason. But how in that rejection, God is actually redirecting me to something else. So not kind of just sitting in that rejection, but saying, okay, yes, you were rejected. This is how you feel about it. But what is God trying to direct you toward? As opposed to making it feel like he's taking something away from me.
So, your life experience has been your push to becoming an author.
Well, it's been a piece of it, yes. To be able to share that piece, because I know other people also deal with rejection. Because for a while, I felt like my story wasn't important, or, it wouldn't really make that much of an impact. But going through a Bible study and learning that we all have stories that we need to share because other people go through similar situations, and me being able to overcome that and then share it on the other side means that somebody else can read my story and say, hey, if she did it, even though it doesn't look exactly like her, mine may not look exactly like hers did, then that means that I can do it too. So what are some things I can do to also overcome this sense of rejection that I, continuously go through?
Yes, definitely. And so you are part of an anthology.
Yes.
What is the name? What is the name of the anthology?
It's called Shining Crowns Anthology, Volume 1, Triumphant Stories of Unstoppable Women.
Mm, that sounds powerful.
Yes.
And your contribution, because just to hear the title of the book, it sounds weighted, it sounds heavy, it sounds as if, you know, how you see a bunch of lions going through the fields. That's the visual that I see. Um,
Mhm.
and so tell me a little more about this project and your contribution to it.
Yes. So in the project, there are 10 of us, 10 women, who contributed a piece of our stories to this anthology. And the stories go from everything, starting with, well, not starting with, but including talking about reinventing ourselves to dealing with low self-esteem, rejection, talking about sexual assault. So it talks about a variety of things. As you mentioned, yes, some of it is weighty. Like you read it and you're like, oh, like how do we rise up from that? But one thing we also intentionally did is that kind of towards the end of our stories, well, we kind of tell our story. We talk about how we overcame and how we shined our own crowns, but then we also provide practical steps at the end of each chapter for how those who are reading it can also shine their crowns. So we didn't want to just tell our stories and kind of leave people hanging and feeling like, well, it was nice that you told me how you went through your story, but what does that mean practically for me? We provided some of those practical steps for people to use to be able to kind of reflect and then take the steps to help themselves shine their own crowns and be encouraged that they too can get to the places where we are now.
Mm, I love.
And my Yes. So I spoke a little bit earlier about, having to deal with rejection throughout my life. So the title of my chapter is Rejection for My Direction, how a life of kind of going through rejection and sudden loss led me to purpose. Because a lot of what I've been through has either dealt with rejection or the sudden loss of loved ones. So one of those where you wake up one morning, you get a phone call and you're like, oh, so and so just died. And you're like, wait,
Mm,
what? I just talked to so and so last week or yesterday. What do you mean they're no longer here? And I've had 4 such instances like that. So kind of going through that process, which sometimes sudden loss can also feel like rejection, like why did you have to leave? So kind of combining those two things together. But as I mentioned before, being able to flip that, and it's not that I don't still go through times of rejection now. It's just I'm better able to identify what it is and then move on from it quicker.
wow. Okay, you just said a whole lot. Okay. Um, One, you invested in yourself over a period of a
Mhm,
year, not only professionally but personally.
mhm,
Then you learn how to identify what the issue was and the
mhm.
lessons that came from it. And you not only executed that thing, but you also put it in practical form into a book. Oh, I, ooh, I'm just like, ooh, um, oh wow, that's phenomenal because so many people go through things and we may say, oh, it's a mommy issue or a daddy issue or, you know, church hurt or, you know, someone passed away or all these different things that we blame it on, but we don't take the time to invest in ourselves and
Mhm.
take the time to heal. I
Exactly.
love the fact that you said you took that time and you focused on what you needed to focus on
Mhm.
professionally and personally because you can't move forward if you're not good. Hmm.
Right.
Wow. Um, it aligns with the mindset piece and then the manifestation. Wow. I have so many
And
things running through my mind right
it's
now.
one of
I
those
do.
things, as I mentioned, that I still don't always get it right. Because one of the kind of the first practical step that I mentioned is to be able to kind of get still and get quiet and identify the root of the rejection or the sudden loss. And I acknowledge that's not something that anybody wants to do. As you mentioned, you might identify that it's mommy issue, daddy issues, any other kind of issues, but who actually wants to sit down with that and deal with that? Because that doesn't feel great. Like that
You have to
doesn't
put
feel
the band-aid
great.
off fast. No.
Right. But as you, and like I said, I still don't always get it right. And it's one of those things that I figured out that even though you can go through one piece of it, you can get through that piece, but then sometimes, and I've had this happen to me, sometimes the Holy Spirit can then whisper and be like, Angela, that's great that you thought about that piece. What about this piece over here? And then you're like, oh, we gotta do that too.
Right.
Which is not great,
Point
but
that card out.
yep, you
Why you
gotta do that
screaming at me?
too.
You
Right.
say you're whispering. I'm like, You screaming at me. Yeah.
Right. So it's not easy, but definitely a necessary part of the process, and then ends up becoming an additional part of the testimony that you can share with other people to say, yes, I went through this piece, but know that just because I went through that piece, sometimes you can go through that piece and like you're done, you're good. But other times it's like God is giving you this one piece right now because that's what you can handle. But then there are some other pieces that later on, once you got through that, yep, let's let's deal with this piece. so, so we can root that out and then kind of keep going.
Mm. So where do you see yourself going from here?
Um, so from here, it's been on my mind in some ways to kind of further break down some of the practical steps that I've listed in my chapter, just as I continue going through the process. I mean, we're talking an anthology with 10 of us writing, so our chapters aren't necessarily super long, and kind of, in some ways, just touch the surface of it. So being able to expand on some of that information to possibly write possibly a full book of my own, or just, sharing some additional insights into those steps that I provide as I continue to learn and grow throughout this process. And then also, in addition to the author piece, is also expanding my business because it is newer. So being able to continue doing this work, because obviously we're still somewhat in the middle of a pandemic. So it's been rough.
Yeah.
But in reality, students are still graduating every day or every year, and still need this assistance, so that they know that they can do more and they can be more. So continuing to help with that process.
I like that. I really do. I have a senior this year, so yeah, I really like that. Uh,
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm just like, "Ooh, come on, where's the scholarship? Where's the help? I know where you're
Right.
going to school. I know why you're going to school. I know the subject matter, but come on, let's get some more money somewhere." So I love that piece.
I'll
Tell the
send you
people
some
how they can
resources
reach
that
you.
I have.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I'm
I'll
all
send
about the resources.
it.
Thank you. So tell the people how they can reach you.
Yes. So the easiest way to reach me is through my website, which is moveonpurpose.org. And my email address is just angela@moveonpurpose.org.
Love it, love it, love it. So you
Yep.
guys,
I'm also
go ahead.
I'm also on Facebook, just under Angela Duncan, and I do have a Facebook group for the business, which is also Move on Purpose LLC on Facebook.
Yay! So you guys know that Angela's book is in the Black Office Rock bookstore, both locations, and that we are looking forward to these. Look, I'm already giving you more work. These classes, these books, these these seminars that we'll be going through, because everyone within the community either knows of a child that's about to graduate or has a child that's about to graduate. So The doors are open. And so
Yes.
I thank you again for this opportunity to interview you. I thank you for the opportunity of uh, being a vessel to get your book out and get the information for people to know more about you and your business because it is necessary. Even after this year's senior, I have an 8-year-old, and kids are always graduating. So
Yes.
I'm here for it. And so, yes, I wish you much success. And if there's anything that Black Authors Rock can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. And you guys follow Miss Angela Duncan on social media and Facebook, as well as go to her website and also purchase her book. So we'll put the link below and make sure that you have her information to purchase her book. And we look forward to what the future has in store.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys keep rocking with us. Thank you.